This 985 Cedar Road. Let's see, here's an excellent one. But see, Ringo might be on this one. What do you think?
Whoever spends
What about
it's
golf?
primarily where it's either that or
So we cheaper where she is?
And you said no, I don't know.
Oh, go ahead, show that for a second. All right, well, what about? So, what you call out this thing? Rick Fain, ask him who he wants to be. Because the restaurant didn't ask for Rick. You gotta take this. Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the June meeting of the Pittsylvania County Planning Commission. Madam Clerk, if you would, call the roll.
Mr. Webb,
here.
Mr. Brown,
Here.
Mr. Waters,
Here.
Mr. Dalton,
Here.
Mr. Oakes,
Here.
Ms. Meese,
Here.
Ms. Henderson,
Here.
Mr. Harker.
Here. If you would, stand and join me for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Hearing of the citizens. Is there anyone here tonight to address this board regarding a matter that is not on our agenda? All right, approval of the agenda. The floor is open for a motion on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the agenda.
Motion by Mr. Webb. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Oakes. Please cast your vote.
Mine ain't come up yet.
We can do a roll call vote if we need to. Who has not had a chance to vote?
It hadn't come up on mine.
Okay.
What's your vote, Mr. Webb?
Yes, approved. Yes.
Motion to approve the agenda is approved. 7 in favor, yes, 0 no. Approval of the minutes. The floor is open for a motion on last month's minutes.
I make a motion that the minutes be approved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Ms. Meese. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Mr. Waters. Please cast your vote.
All right, Mr. Harker, I have to do a roll call on the vote.
That'll be fine.
Oh, it just came up on
Mine just came up.
Okay. All right.
Motion to approve the minutes passes 7 yes, 0 against. Chairman's report, I don't have a report tonight, anything new. We'll get right into our cases for the month. Ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to Article 5, Division 7 of the Pittsylvania County Zoning Ordinance, we, the Planning Commission, have been empowered to hear and decide specific applications in support of said ordinance and to make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors of the Board of Zoning and Appeals. In accomplishing this important task, we're charged with promoting the health, safety, and general welfare of the citizens of Pittsylvania County. We must ensure that all of our decisions and recommendations be directed to these goals and that each be consistent with the environment, the comprehensive plan, and in the best interest of Pittsylvania County, its citizens, and its posterity. Anyone here to speak to this board tonight regarding zoning cases will be limited to 3 minutes. And at 3 minutes, the clock will be running on the screen tonight. So we have a lot of folks signed up to speak. I will cut you off and ask you to wrap up in 10 seconds or less, okay? All right. At 7:07, case R-24-009 is now open for public hearing. Mrs. Ragsdale.
Case R-24-009, Sean Barber has petitioned to rezone property located on State Road 777 Yorkshire Drive in the Callens-Gretna Election District. He's requesting to rezone 0.22 acres from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District and 0.01 acres from A1 Agricultural District to R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to allow property lines to be adjusted and the property to be consolidated with an adjacent parcels zoned A1 and R1. Once the property is rezoned to A1, all uses listed under Section 35-178 are permitted. Once the property is rezoned to R1, all uses listed under Section 35-222 are permitted. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, I believe Sean Barber is here to represent the petition.
Mr. Barber, are you here?
If not, I will try to answer any
Okay.
questions the
Do
board
we
may
have any
have.
questions for Mrs. Ragsdale regarding this petition?
I don't have any, I have not received any opposition for that area. So,
Thank you, Mrs. Meese. I don't have anyone signed up here to speak to this case, I don't believe. I double check. No, I don't. Did anybody come in late that would like to speak to this case? All right. At 7:08, public hearing is closed. Mrs. Meese.
in case R-24-009, I make a recommendation, a motion and recommendation to the Board of Supervisors that this case be honored as requested.
Motion by Mrs. Meese. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Oakes. Thank you. Please cast your vote.
All right, Mr. Harker, can I get your vote?
Yes.
All right. And Mr. Waters, can I get
Yes.
Motion carries, 7 yes, 0 no. Thank you. At 7:10, case R-24-010 is now open for public hearing. Mrs. Ragsdale.
Case R-24-010, Daniel and Natasha Gasser have petitioned to rezone 47.67 acres located on Primitive Baptist Road in the Tunstall Election District from RC1 Residential Combined Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District to allow for the placement of an accessory structure. Once the property is rezoned to A1, all uses listed under Section 35-178 are permitted. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Natasha and Daniel Gasser are here to represent the petition.
Mr. and Ms. Gasser? Yes. Do you have anything you'd like to add to the pack? All right, thank you, Mr. Gasser. Anyone here tonight to speak regarding this case? All right. At 7:11, public hearing is closed. Mr. Oakes.
Mr. Chairman, in case R-24-010, I make a recommendation that we change the zoning from RC1 to A1.
Motion by Mr. Oakes. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second.
Second by Mr. Webb. Thank you. Ready to vote. Motion carries, 7 yes, 0 no. At 7:12, case R-24-011 is now open for public hearing. Mrs. Ragsdale.
Case R-24-00011, Anchorstone Advisor Sova LLC has petitioned to amend the future land use designation from medium and high-density residential and commercial to industrial and rezone 945.79 acres located on U.S. Highway 58 in the Dan River election, on U.S. Highway 58 and Cedar Road in the Dan River election district from A1 Agricultural District and R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to M2 Industrial District Heavy Industry to allow for a data center complex. Once the property is rezoned to M2, all uses listed under Section 35-402 are permitted. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Tom Gallagher is here to represent the petition.
Good evening and welcome, Mr. Gallagher.
I believe we have the wrong presentation up.
Please bear with us just a moment. that look right, Mr. Gallagher?
Sorry?
Does that look
There
right?
we go. All right.
All
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, IT. Greetings, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, residents, and all others who may be watching us virtually. My name is Tom Gallagher. I'm presenting on behalf of Anchorstone Advisors SOVA LLC. Appreciate everybody coming out. What I'm going to do is we got a short presentation I'll run through, and then happy to answer any questions at that time, and then we can move on and answer questions subject to public input.
Yeah.
So we're in front of the Planning Commission tonight on a comprehensive plan amendment and a rezoning for 946 acres, Route 58, East Data Center Campus. So, why are we requesting this rezoning? The purpose of our request and what we're asking for approval is to bring the first data center to Pennsylvania County. Now, we had a open forum the other night, and a lot of questions came up about data centers. So what I'm going to do is run through some general information on data centers. Data centers, what are they? Inside, it's a lot of technology, and we'll come back to this in a moment, but a lot of equipment, a lot of very expensive equipment. They are generally warehouses. They're warehouses that house computers, networking equipment used to store, send data. They provide large-scale data storage for businesses, military, and governments. In addition, data centers provide secure and reliable ways to save and store data. Healthcare has been a huge user, and it's only increasing. Data centers also allow for fast and reliable connectivity for everyday web users for tasks like texting, social media, and emails. So I said the other night, anybody that doesn't have a cell phone, raise your hand. And then there were no takers. Additionally, I'm going to point the camera, I don't want to hit it. You're virtual. Right now I'm virtual. And I think probably on 2 or 3 channels, right? All that takes data, all of that. The other thing I found out last week is agriculture is one of the fastest growing areas of data use. So a lot of farmers are taking advantage of artificial intelligence, which helps them. They got ground sensors, and it tells them, when to water, when to fertilize. You literally can take a picture of an insect and send it in. So agriculture is another big user. Data centers, what do they look like? Again, inside, a lot of servers, a lot of expensive servers. Outside, they're pretty nondescript, warehouse buildings. You can see different settings. The light's not great. This is better over here, you can see. But they're large, and they will expand. These are probably multi-year projects. So, for example, this would be built over a number of years, depending on the availability of different services. Oh, sorry, I got too many tools. Noise levels. One of the things that we've consistently heard is concerns about noise levels. All right, so this is a fairly basic decibel chart. And 60 decibels, which is normal conversation, so I'm probably above that. I'm probably up, The Pennsylvania County ordinance and our proffers, which we can basically confirm, we have to comply with the regulations, which is 65 decibels at the property line. Okay, 65 decibels. So basically, if you're at the property line, you could hear, I think, at 70 a lawnmower, you would be out of compliance. So there's the ordinance, and there's annual testing that takes place, et cetera. The other thing that question came up with respect to light pollution. And these are what we call the dark sky principles, which are fairly well known, but basically, moving forward, we'll be adhering to dark sky principles. Not only do they make sense, but economically, it's more effective. So, and they generally minimize the amount of light used, so, only use as much as you need, minimize the areas, so you use shields, you use it, minimize the periods either with timers or, making sure you turn off the light when you leave the house in the morning, unlike myself. And then use warm colored lighting basically, which is if you're a lighting geek, which is basically under 3,000 kelvins. So they use a warmer light. All right. Oh. All right. Tax revenue benefits. I'm going to read this out. The project presents a unique mix of high tax revenues while having a low impact on county-provided services. Data center equipment is taxed at a higher rate than real estate or other personal property. So there's multiple layers of tax that get paid, and that's why I referenced earlier all the equipment. So all the machine tool taxes, that's why these things are so attractive. And then as an illustration, another recently approved project in Hanover County, some of you all may have seen this, they're projecting that they will get $1.78 billion in tax revenue over the next 20 years. In Virginia counties, data center projects have received significant returns with low public investment. The other thing I will tell you is that not only are data centers around and continue to grow, but Virginia is, as I understand it, is the basic data center capital of the world. All right, so I think between 2017 and 2021, Virginia received about $3.5 billion in revenue, directly or indirectly related to data centers. And I think in 2023, maybe the U.S., it was over $100 billion in new investments just that year. All right. In terms of the location, so we got 946 acres located on just south of 58 East. The connections to water, sewer, fiber, network, power are available, which are all critical. Because we've got 946 acres, and we'll get to the concept plan in a moment, we've got a lot of flexibility, and our plan is to preserve the mature vegetation, the tree stands on the perimeter of the property wherever they exist for buffering. And then to the extent we either have to go in and do some work because for stormwater management or infrastructure purposes, we'd have to replant. And then additionally, from a location standpoint, you've got, various properties. This is actually easier to see over here, but this is the subject property. You've got the landfill, you've got Cane Creek, and you've got the regional airport. So from a comp plan standpoint, I know this is currently comp plan for residential, but from a comp plan standpoint, it's an ideal location, not only for this service, but given the proximity to infrastructure, but in terms of the other uses in the immediate vicinity. Notwithstanding, there are a lot of residents who live in the area. So we did hear from them, but from a comp plan standpoint, I think it makes a lot of sense. All right, this is our, that looks a little strange, but so the conceptual, this is 58, and then you've got the land off of 58 and goes back into here. We've got 946 total acres. Let's see if I can get a better plan. Sorry. All right, this is a little bit better, but in terms of all the buildings that are laid out here are conceptual in terms of location, size. It will ultimately be determined by, we've got some topography, if you know the area, it's kind of rolling, so, and we've got wetlands. So the developable area is roughly where these buildings are, but as to their exact location, configuration, that's to be determined. All right, we talked about tax benefits, talked about that. Location-wise, and again, talked about the utilities and infrastructure, which is critical. So you've got, in close proximity, including right on 58, you've got dark fiber, you've got, the good news is because of this area and the manufacturing base, the infrastructure, although some of the pipes and lines, et cetera, are old, the infrastructure, the capacity is there. We've had the preliminary feedback from a water, sewer standpoint. We're in good shape, and dark fiber. All right. I mentioned proffers, and Emily said at the outset in terms of the rezoning to the M2. So what we are proposing is a data center. We are also saying that in terms of, because things can change, but we are proffering that the only uses that would be permitted with our rezoning would be warehousing, distribution, laboratory, research and development, light manufacturing, or telecommunication facilities as defined in the zoning ordinance. We would be prohibited from raceway, junkyard, salvage, landfill, or residential dwelling units. From a traffic study standpoint, the good news about Data centers is at build-out. Once they're operational, there's minimal traffic. You got maybe 500. I think in Hanover, they were talking about maybe 800 employees, okay? Having said that, we'll talk in a moment about the traffic impact part of it, which is really during construction, okay? And then additionally, we are proffering that we will ensure there be a training outreach orientation program for first responders, just because it is the first data center in Pennsylvania County, and we've had requests. We want to make sure that the first responders are all familiar with how to deal with ours. And then we'll be connecting the public sewer and water, and we've committed to, use advertise for local labor and trades, which we've, most of the folks that have been involved so far are all local. All right, traffic. I mentioned traffic planning. So because once they're operational, the trips are limited. And in fact, the data centers, they don't even trigger a traffic impact analysis. They're so far below the threshold. But during construction, there is this traffic, obviously construction traffic. And go back to this, sorry. So our intent, and the majority of the construction traffic will be coming in off of 58, all right? And eventually I foresee other access points, but they will be predominantly for life safety or, the objective from a construction standpoint is to use the majority of the access off of 58, which makes perfect sense. All right. Traffic we talked about, and any construction entrance will have to be approved by, you can't see the rest of that, there's a big VDOT there in all caps. So we are not able to unilaterally access any public right-of-way. All right, and with that, I'm happy to take any questions from any of the commissioners. Mr. Dalton.
Any questions for Mr. Gallagher?
I got a couple of questions. The size of these buildings, what chance is it of y'all putting solar on top of them to help with the electrical use?
I wouldn't say impossible, but not likely. I mean, because from a structure standpoint, given what they have going on, some of these are water-cooled, air-cooled, but from a rooftop unit. But I honestly, I'll investigate it further. Because solar makes perfect sense. I mean, and the challenge right now for solar and for electric in general is the grid, right? That's one of the big challenges right now in terms of being able to transport. But I think unlikely, but I will check.
Okay. Y'all will have to work with the Army Corps of Engineers as far as runoff water, catch ponds, to make sure that excess water is not running into streams at a high rate of capacity due to the size of these buildings?
Absolutely, yeah. So we'll be working with the Corps and DEQ. I mean, and I think it was last year, this basically Supreme Court with a SACA decision. So some of the things the Corps used to do now fall under DEQ's responsibility. But absolutely, the general rule for development is that the stormwater runoff post-development will be the same or less than pre-development. So we absolutely will have to meet every requirement in terms of runoff, quality, quantity, et cetera.
And so later on, if the noise level is above recommended levels, y'all can come back in and put berms in, more vegetation to hold down the noise level?
Yeah, well, I don't think the facility would open, but if in the future, given, a stand of trees gets diseased and goes down, then absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Gallagher. We have quite a few people that wanted to speak tonight, and we'll give you the chance to come back up and address any of their questions.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a whole list of folks here that signed up to speak to another case, but I think this is the one you wanted to speak to. If I call your name, if that's not the case.
I think I think there's two cases with opposition, I believe.
Okay.
I don't know that anyone signed up to speak on this case.
This one.
Except for those two people. I don't
Okay.
know if others wanted to speak and didn't sign up,
All
but
right,
those were the only two.
Okay, all right. Got, I can't read this, but I'm going to take a stab at it. Joy?
Joey Fawcett. Joey.
Joey, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's not the first
I
time
would
I've
recommend
heard that.
printing next time.
Yeah.
I would-
Yeah, that's what my wife says. Honey, you need to write this so somebody else can read it besides you.
Yeah, welcome, Joey.
I apologize for that. I'm Dr. Joey Fawcett. I have the privilege of chairing the Industrial Development Authority for Pittsylvania County, and I'm joined by my colleague and fellow board member from the Ringgold District, Stephen Merricks, and also, Mr. Chair, if it's okay, I'd like to welcome the Board of Supervisors representative from the Ringgold District,
Yeah.
Mr. Eddie Height as well, who is responsible for Mr. Merrick's participation on our board. So thank you so much. I have a resolution, Mr. Chair, that comes from the entire board of the Industrial Development Authority and was unanimously approved that I'd like to read into the record and then give Ms. Ragsdale a copy following the reading of this into your minutes. So if you will allow me the privilege of reading this resolution,
sir.
Whereas the Pennsylvania County Industrial Development Authority supports the location of a data center to the 58 East Data Campus at 3670 South Boston Highway, Ringgold, Virginia, and whereas the data center creates a tremendous benefit to Pennsylvania County because of the substantial economic impact it brings, including an estimated $4 to $5 billion in investment and up to 500 high-wage jobs. And whereas this data center significantly enhances the county's overall tax base by generating an estimated $120 million to $200 million annually in direct tax revenue for Pennsylvania County, while requiring little to no county services long-term, thus answering our crying need for a high-yield, low-impact solution to help alleviate the tax burden of citizens with additional tax revenues equivalent to 10 to 12 Caesars casinos like the one in Danville each year. And whereas the 58 East Data Campus site has ample amounts of electric, water, sewer, fiber, and natural gas capabilities to support a substantial data center project like this with no negative impact to its neighbors, and whereas the 58 East Data Campus has direct access to 4-lane Highway 58 and Danville Expressway designated I-785, and thus incurs a negligible traffic impact, and whereas the location has more than adequate access to a labor force of over 600,000 persons within a 60-minute drive, and whereas the Pennsylvania County Board of Supervisors amended the zoning ordinance to permit data centers like this one by special use permit, and whereas while this data center's developers are requesting rezoning to M2, their voluntary proffers include restrictions for the land's use to exclude other potential M2 uses like rendering plants, racetracks, landfills, and more for generations to come that include any future development, thus ensuring the highest and best use of this site. Now therefore be it resolved that the Pennsylvania County Industrial Development Authority unanimously supports the rezoning application for this data center at the 58 East Data Center Campus, 3670 South Boston Highway, Ringgold, Virginia. Respectfully submitted by myself, Joey Fawcett, Chair of the Industrial Development Authority of Pennsylvania County. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Joey. Ann Smith. Good evening, Ms. Smith.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of this Planning Commission. First, let me apologize to you for not being able to stand. My name is Ann Smith, and I live at 985 Cedar Road. My property is adjacent to the proposed rezoning request. The citizens of Mountain Hill community thank you for your efforts in serving our county, and we are asking you to do just that now. Anchor Stone Advisors, a group that was organized in January, matter of fact, January 8th to 2024, are not members of our community. They are requesting you to rezone 945 plus acres from A1 agricultural residential to M2 heavy industrial for a data center. This decision will impact us for many years to come and many people. We have not seen any studies that contains air, soil, water contamination, and especially noise, which can be heard 2.5 miles away from the facility. We already have one catastrophic disaster in our neighborhood. That's First Piedmont Landfill. For 50 years, they have not been made to comply with either DEQ or EPA regulations. According to the Code of Virginia, and I quote this, all legislative efforts are intended to improve public health, safety, and the welfare of the citizens, as well as to provide for healthy family life and to preserve agriculture and forest land. The primary purpose of the zoning law is to separate people whose use of land is detrimental to others. You must be sure that all your decisions and your recommendations be directed to the goals of the Code of Virginia. Even a special permit, and I quote, shall not have undue adverse effect and impact on the abutting properties or surrounding neighborhood. Matters to be concerned about: traffic, congestion, noise, lights, dust, odor, vibration, land depreciation, and many others that will impact us in the future. Who will be held accountable? Will that be the Planning Commission, the Board of Supervisors, or whoever? Please investigate other data centers in the state of Virginia for the issues that they are encountering at this time. This should be put in an industrial park. Ringgold Industrial Park, Berry Hill. This was designed for that, and not in the middle of an all-American neighborhood with school buses and children outside playing and citizens just trying to live a normal life. In conclusion, as a citizen, a voter, a taxpayer, and a representative from my community, I plead with you, do not allow this to happen. We do not need another catastrophic disaster like First Piedmont Landfill in our neighborhood. I have faith in each of you to do the right thing, and may God be with you as you decide this life-changing situation for our community. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Okay. Mrs. Smith was the last one I have signed up. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Sir? If you'd like to be heard, please come forward. I can't hear you. If you'd like to speak, come on down. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Randy Dry. I live at 346 Cheney Store Road.
What was your last name, Randy? I'm sorry.
Dry, D-R-Y-E.
All right.
And like I say, Ann said it. I mean, we already suffer with First Piedmont being there. And he's saying it's 500 to 800 jobs. That's 500 to 800 people coming up and down our little two-lane roads, because they're not going to use 58. They're going to use the entrance they put on Cedar Road. They've already put an entrance on Cedar Road and been back there working. Mr. Cunningham, I think he's here. He's seen some of the stuff they've been doing back there. I mean, they already tried to move the landfill across the road not long ago in the same property. Now they're trying to do this, and it's going to affect our neighborhood. It's going to affect our kids. We don't want it there.
All right. All right.
And that's really all I have to say.
All right.
As I say, Ann said most of it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Please. Yeah, ma'am, you can come forward. I'm sorry, Mr. Gallagher. Hold 1 second. Please state your name and address for the record, if you don't mind.
Patty Evans, 220 Cheney Store Road in Ringgold.
Okay.
Mostly just to second what they've said, we don't need another disaster out. One's enough, and it's hard dealing with the odor and everything we have from the landfill. But I mean, I have horses, they're cows. My cousin that lives right where they've made the road, she has horses. I mean, and Ann, I mean, she has a beautiful yard, and I mean, we don't need our property depreciated anymore by this. Why they can't go to an industrial park, to the cyber parks, E-Toys for that matter, that facility, is anybody in that? It's huge. It's a warehouse. It seems like it would be more suited for that area than it would coming in a residential area. I mean, we have the cyber parks out there with plenty of vacant buildings out that way. People put stuff in them, they go out of business, and we have plenty of vacant that nobody ever uses, and it seems like a waste. So why can't they, instead of building something else, utilize businesses we've already got? And like I said, E-Toy, I mean, it's in a, like I said, 4-lane highway. It's already built. Looks like they've got plenty of space. You know, it's not as built up through there residentially, so why can't you use something like that? I mean, would y'all want to live near something like this? I mean, just honestly? Or do you want your neighborhood to stay a nice, quiet neighborhood where your kids can play and you don't have to worry about the noise, the traffic, pollution? I mean, it doesn't belong in our area.
All right, thank you.
Samuels Horn. I have property that I was just sent certified mail. I don't know much about this. I've been trying to talk to some people tonight about it. But obviously, it was important enough that I get some certified mail that I had to go pick up. I do see a sign at the end of my property about this rezoning, okay? I am on the 58 east side. So there is a very small dirt road leading to this property. I live on that road with my children, or my great nieces and nephews that I've got custody of. I am against it from right now, from what I'm hearing. And like I said, I don't know how long. Apparently, in the notes I've taken from Ms. Ann Smith, this come about January 8th of this year. So I guess I work out of town. I've not heard much about it. But right now, from what I'm hearing, I'm against it. I have friends and relatives that lives in the Mountain Hill community, and I know about the disaster with the landfill. I've seen the smoke, I've seen the flames from as far out as I live from it. So, and this sounds like it's going to be in my backyard. This property is adjacent to my property. So I just want to say right now, I'm against it.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Gallagher.
Tom Gallagher again for the applicant. I fully appreciate, and I've heard some of the same comments the other night. One thing I will tell you is from a couple just data points in terms of, heard the mega site mentioned, and I can tell you that's one of the specific reasons that that's not an option is because RIFA and basically the county and the other partners have been very disciplined about bringing jobs there. So while 500 jobs, and they're high-paying jobs, is great, the mega site is geared towards, thousands of jobs, 10, 15 ultimately. So that was one of the reasons. Additionally, the location of the power lines and the other infrastructure is critical. I mean, from a power standpoint, I don't know if this will go back now. The other thing I would say is that from concerns about information and what's going on. So this is the first step in the process. We will be coming back, we'll be going to the Board of Supervisors in July. We'll be then filing for a special use permit, which will be data center specific and a lot more detail. Subsequent to that, we will have to work through, with the county, VDOT, DEQ, the Corps, everybody. So from a process standpoint, yes, there's a lot of unanswered questions right now, but we don't pull a permit, we don't get access from VDOT without answering all those questions, whether that's storm, traffic, life safety, et cetera. And the last thing I'll say is, we're going to be holding some additional open house meetings, and I am happy to come and sit down with you or anybody else to talk about your concerns.
Okay. Any questions arise for Mr. Gallagher while we have him? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
At 7:46, public hearing is closed. Mr. Brown.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I want to commend Anchorstone for having an open public community meeting to let us know as a planning commission. Ms. Janet Meese was there, Mr. Height was there, several others. Stephen was there from IDA board. Ringgold hosted that. You guys came out in full force and had plenty of questions for Anchorstone. You did a great job. They did a good job of answering them for the most part of what they could tell you. A lot of this is new. Some of the points I want to bring up, and one thing that I didn't realize, and I haven't been in county politics long, and that's just how tight the Mound Hill community is, number one. Number two, you guys have had a 50-year problem that I didn't realize was the level that it was, that you put up with and have dealt with. And, this isn't a landfill. It's not going to be a landfill. That is what the proffer states. And that was security for Anchorstone to do that, which was really forthcoming into the community to say, hey, this isn't what we're trying. Nobody was trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. Nobody was trying to do anything corrupted. This doesn't have anything to do with the landfill. I understand the conditions now because I've rode down there some and I'm seeing what some of you all are talking about. And I've been in the Dan River District all 38 years of my life. But for me, this is a big deal. It's one of the biggest deals that's probably come through the county in my lifetime. When you talk about tax revenue, we all just watched our taxes go up. That wasn't any fun. This is one heck of a way to stop that from ever happening again. For instance, if we move forward. I got kids at Dan River, just like many of you do, and your grandkids. Y'all talk about kids and this kind of thing. 900 and some acres that's got this type of electricity, this type of water, is an industrial potential property, one way or another. And the one thing I will say I do like about this, and I've met with these guys some, I was at the meeting you all were at, this type of deal is not as nearly invasive as what potentially, other industries could look like. And especially when you talk about traffic, sound, noise, steam, and all kind of stuff. You've all been around factories. I like the deal of the proffers, because if this was to fall through for this company, this is going to carry with the lay of the land if it gets sold. And you're going to hear the word proffers keep coming up, and that's going to be a big deal next month with the Board of Supervisors as well, I'm assuming. Like I said, tonight we only make a recommendation. But, I just wanted to clear up some of the things I keep hearing people talk about. This is not your next disaster. And that word disaster was used a lot the other night, and it keeps being used tonight. And this is not a landfill. It has nothing to do with a landfill, and the landfill is not involved in this in any way. And I just want to make sure, I know you guys right now have been burned for 50 years. You don't trust nobody. And I can see why. And I've talked to some of you privately, and I see where you're coming from. And it's a shame, that's kind of the hand that you have gotten dealt over the years. Somebody's dropped the ball badly. That's all I've got, Mr. Chairman. Anybody else?
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I can get it out without coughing. Thank you, Mr. Brown. I was at that meeting, May 31st, at the fire department. I think everybody in this room will agree with me. The tone of that meeting was far worse than it is today. I commend you for that. I think this company has done their homework. They have contacted everybody, the chief of police, the VDOT, many other important people to get their input. I think you will find that they are trying to be a neighbor to all of you at Ringo. And I'm hoping, like he said, I'll come and sit down with you. How many other people say that? Excuse me. And when he left, we left that night before they adjourned, he told you, all of you, I have my business card with my mobile phone call on it, number on it. Please feel free to call me. And I will promise you I will get back in touch with you within 12 hours. I don't know that I would do that. With the opposition he got that night, all of so many phone calls, I don't know how many he's had. But again, I'm just trying to bring out how they are trying to help you understand that they're not your enemies. They're here to help not only Ringo residents, but all approximately 60,000 citizens in Pittsylvania County. And also the city of Danville will benefit. Now, I like my cell phone. All of us here have a cell phone, most of the part. Nobody likes fear of the unknown. They're changing times. I understand. I feel your pain. As you get older, nobody wants to change. But we have to change in order to grow. I don't want to go back when my grandparents, the way they lived, or even my parents. I want to move forward for my children, my grandchildren. So I'm just asking you, there's a lot of good people sitting here, very friendly. I was very welcome at that firehouse. But I think as time goes on, I hope that you will accept them and know that they are here to work with you. So thank y'all for all coming. I admire you for defending your community. I would too. But here are the people that can answer any questions of fear that you have. I think with the proclamation from the industrial, Mr. Fawcett, what more could you ask for? He said it all. There's no more to argue. What he said, the benefits that the county would gain. And we have to think of the entire county and how we're going to benefit. And so many felt like that we were left out when the casino came to Danville. This is our casino. It's our time to grow. Thank y'all all for coming.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Meese. Mr. Brown, before we have any more comment or discussion, do you have a motion?
I do.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, in case R-24-011, I make a motion to approve.
I second.
Motion by Mr. Brown, second by Mrs. Meese. Any more discussion on it? All right. We're ready to vote?
Mr. Hartman, what's your vote?
Yes. Mr. Brown's motion carries 7 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you. Thank all of you guys for coming out tonight, too.
At 7:55, case R-24-013 is now open for public hearing. Mrs. Ragsdale.
Case R-24-013, Aaron Tooley has petitioned to rezone 3.85 acres located on State Road 992, Homestead Trail in the Dane River Election District from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District to allow for a private recreational facility or an event venue. Once the property is rezoned to A1, all uses listed under Section 35-178 are permitted. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Aaron Tooley is here to represent the petition.
Aaron, you come forward, please.
Thank you, Planning Commission, for allowing me to speak tonight. First, I wanted to say to my neighbors, I wanted to apologize for not coming to you first. And when I explain what my goal is, I hope you'll understand it better. I honestly did not think it would cause so much tension and confusion, and I'm sorry. So I hope I can explain what my hope is tonight to you. When my husband, 4 boys, and I saw 673 Homestead Trail for sale back in August, we fell in love with it. It's a 1900, it was built in 1900. It's a farmhouse. It has a big barn and then some outbuildings and beautiful, beautiful land in the back. And we just fell in love with it. My boys love playing outside and running, and it's been wonderful. For almost 2 years, I have done traveling tea parties around the Danville area. I take all of the tea, the dishes, the desserts to people's homes and churches. We set up the tea party, the ladies have their party, and then we come back and pick it up. When we found this house, I thought, oh my goodness, this would be the neatest spot to have tea parties on the front porch, on the back deck. There's a little shed in the back that would be beautiful to have tea parties at, and that's kind of where the idea started. I love bringing people together and would love to use our property as a way for families to celebrate life together. We were told to do anything on our property, we needed it to rezone from R1 to agricultural. Because of a grant proposal to help fix up the big barn that I was applying for, we were hoping to do maybe some bigger events in there in the future. That grant did not go through, so that's way in the future. At this point, I am asking today for rezoning to agriculture so I can host tea parties, children's tea parties, and small group events like graduations and family reunions on our property. There will never be alcohol allowed, and events will be done by 10 in the evening. This will be an occasional thing. This is not an every weekend thing. We have a family and boys that are very busy. I am completely willing to add proffers to whatever concerns the neighbors have. We already know we want to put proffers in to say no alcohol, nothing after 10 p.m., and then no mobile homes or trailers or anything like that allowed as well. And we are open to hearing the concerns the neighbors have. So that is what I'm hoping to do by rezoning to agricultural. And I thank y'all for listening tonight.
Thank you.
Do I need to, are there any questions or do I need to?
We may have you come back up
Okay.
for questions. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Stacy Fitzgerald.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Y'all bear with me. I had to type mine, so I'm a little nervous.
Sorry.
My name is Stacy Fitzgerald, and I have lived on Homestead Trail for nearly my whole life. In 2016, I bought a house across the street from my parents' home where I was raised from the age of 5. I am a single mother of 3 beautiful children, so I was lucky enough to find a home across from their grandparents. My youngest just turned 3 months old, and I'm here today missing her after a long day of work because this is an important issue for me and my family's future on Homestead Trail. I also have a son who is 14 and a daughter who is 19. Both reside with me full-time as well. We are a close family, so my children and I cross the road frequently and almost daily for visits, meals, or to help my parents with any given task. I'm here representing us all. Throughout my years of renting in other areas, I never found a neighborhood or neighbors quite like Homestead Trail. It was an easy choice to settle on this dead-end, quiet country road. I can tell you most of my neighbors' last names, if not their full name or who they are related to, as most of them have lived there for 30-plus years as well. Currently, I can leave my home in the hands of my older kids and even allow them to stroll their baby sister, visit their grandparents, play with a friend, or shoot hoops at the end of the road without worrying about the worst happening to them. I feel very strongly that rezoning will change all of the previously mentioned attributes. Most of the reason I chose to reside in the county versus the city will be affected, and I can only wonder what is next after the venue. I'm told that the rezoning will impact us in other ways. Is it safe to assume that the traffic will increase? It is safe to assume the traffic will increase dramatically, causing our security to be replaced with insecurity. The peace and quiet we have on any given day, evening, or weekend will surely be a thing of the past too, as this property is close to the road and within sight of many of the other properties. I imagine going forward and for the better part of the year, our neighborhood will be filled with the sounds of bands, DJs, and some hooping and hollering for guests who have had one or a few too many. And we can put that in a proffer or whatever you want to do, but people will bring alcohol to any event. I mean, it's just a given. So there goes a lovely evening at the pool or sitting on the front porch. I'm here begging you to vote no to the venue and rezoning on Homestead Trail, therefore allowing myself and my neighbors to continue to live in peace. I believe most of us have worked hard for our place there, and we have the right to say how the future unfolds. Please do not allow
10 seconds, Stacy. Keep going.
Please do not allow a business to come to a quiet country neighborhood and drive us out of our homes, or at the very least, cause us to feel uncomfortable in them. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Jennifer Gussler.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Gussler, and I live at 741 Homestead Trail in Ringgold, and this property that I own is next to the property in question here tonight. I work 50-plus hours a week running a primary care and urgent care in Danville. So needless to say, at the end of the day, I am exhausted, and I need somewhere to relax and be quiet. My husband, Daniel, and I bought the property for this reason. Our house was in severe need of rehab and structural work when we first bought it. But in the last 11 years, we have put more than our purchase price in that home. And my husband and I did all the work. We literally carved mantles for this house out of trees on our property. So now we've lived here for 11 years and we've invested so much into it. We have someone that's lived in our neighborhood less than a year attempting to open a party venue in front of my house. And I mean, I can literally see this from the front windows of my house. It's a dilapidated, termite-infested, moldy barn. It does not have bathroom facilities. It's going to take at least $200,000 to rehab this where it'll even pass a health inspection. So not only will I have to deal with the parties, I will have to deal with the construction of all this. And when I say this is in my front yard, it is approximately 30 feet from my driveway. I can stop my car in my driveway. If I wanted to throw a baseball at this barn, I could hit it. It's that close. So if this comes in and I want to sell my house, and they know there's a party venue in the front yard, I'm not going to be able to get what my house is worth. How do I recoup these losses? Do I go through a civil lawsuit against my neighbors? I don't want to do that. I just want to be left in peace. So, in closing, I just want to say that I hope y'all vote no. Please don't destroy the home I built with my husband and my child over 11 years. Our blood, sweat, and tears have gone into this place. It's safe for my daughter. And like Stacy said, you can say no alcohol all you want to, but we all know, we've all been to weddings. People will get it in there. People got it into mine, and it was at a church, a dry church. It's gonna happen. People wander off and pee behind trees when they're drunk at these parties. My daughter can see this from her front window. So, I mean, we're gonna have a serious problem if that happens even the first time. So please, I'm begging y'all, vote no on this. Y'all know weddings are big and rowdy. So please, just help us save our neighborhood.
All right, thank you. Daniel Gussler.
Good evening, members of this community. That was my wife that just spoke. We both live at 741 Homestead Trail. Tonight, I come to this meeting to be a voice of our community, to allow those who are unable to be here due to work, vacation, for the elderly, for those who are sick and physically unable to be here in person. There is a petition with 100+ signatures and 60+ from this road alone of people who want this community left alone. Of the 41 homes, I was able to make contact with 34 homeowners. Of those, all but one chose to keep the neighborhood and zoning as is. This is 97% of the people that live here that face change every day. I do have reasonable concern with rezoning, as my house does indeed sit beside this property and behind this property. Many of my concerns are plummeting values, people cutting across my property when they're blocked in, or people wanting to use my driveway assuming it's part of this event space. I have concerns on seeing porta-johns and dumpsters beside my driveway versus nature and wildlife. What about trash that blows across property into my yard? I'll have to worry about event guests exceeding venue property, venturing into neighbor properties, seeing what or who is there. Do I have to worry about the good old boys at this dry venue who have a case of beer or a bottle of liquor in the back of their truck, getting rowdy, or better yet, feeling the need to relieve themselves on a nearby tree that just happens to face my home, that happens to face my daughter's bedroom window, my underage daughter. That could be a bad day for everyone, including the event host, including the venue itself when guests are labeled as sex offenders. Which leads me to another huge concern, is the total lack of privacy that comes with an event space for all surrounding neighbors, as this property is road front. I have concerns for the neighborhood kids riding bikes who want to go to their friends' houses. Arguably, my biggest concern with rezoning is the possibility of future use. We hear proffers of no trailers, no mixed use, but we don't hear proffers of the other 40-ish A1 uses. Bottom line is that I and every other homeowner of this petition bought our homes for peaceful enjoyment, a quiet place to raise our children and to grow old in retirement. And to the Toolies, I've heard all kinds of crazy rumors. I do not know of any Facebook groups nor any hatred towards you all. Most people here are loyal servants to God, myself included. There is strong resistance to ruining the peace and quiet and enjoyment of this neighborhood, and the people living here. I actually challenge you to love thy neighbors as thyself and see things through the perspective of others in our neighborhood.
10 seconds, Daniel. We're up.
End goal of a wedding is just even more issue to add to the fire. To the committee before me, I urge you all to do the right thing, listen to the voice of the people that live in the neighborhood, and deny all
All right.
changes.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Bud. Teresa Mitchell.
Hello.
Good evening.
My name is Teresa Mitchell. I am a resident of Homestead Trail and have been for the past 32 years. And like my neighbors and my daughter, I feel the same way about the changing of the zoning because the neighborhood I live in is very peaceful, very beautiful, very quiet, and very comforting. And after 25 years of working a very stressful job and recently retiring, my joy is being on my front porch in the evenings or on the deck, out there in the yard with my pets, in a nice quiet neighborhood with the beauty of everything around us and the peacefulness. And I would very much like to keep it that way without having to change anything, to rezone anything. I think the way it is now, it's as perfect as it's going to get. And I would really appreciate your votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Donald Mitchell.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
My name
evening.
is Donald Mitchell. That was my wife had just spoke, and my daughter spoke a few minutes ago. I've been living in that area for 38 years and 2 months. I built the house myself, and everything has been peaceful and quiet in the whole area since I've been there. I can even go to sleep at night and leave my doors unlocked. That's the way it was back in the old days. Because I remember those old days. I am at that age. I am one of the oldest ones on the Homestead Trail. We would like for it to stay as peaceful as it is right now, without all this excess traffic coming in and out. This road is only 0.8 of a mile long, and I live 0.7 of a mile down the road. Once in a while, we have somebody come by speeding, but it is a 25-mile zone, so I can imagine what it would be like with all this excess traffic coming in and out. So we would like for you all to vote no on this petition, on this proposal to rezone, because we want to keep it nice and peaceful like it has been for the last 38 years I've been there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's see. Joe Walls.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My wife and I left the hustle and bustle of Raleigh with our grandkids. We adopted 2 of our grandkids. We left the hustle and bustle of Raleigh 8 years ago, and we found ourselves at 865 Homestead Trail. As Don said, it's 0.8 of a mile long, and we live right at the end, at the cul-de-sac. Let me paint a picture for you. 40 houses. I think that's what Daniel said, on 0.8 of a mile. At any given time, on any given day, when you come down that road, and everybody in this room can attest to it, you have to watch for cars, trucks, chickens, goats, kids, and am I missing anything? Cows.
All right.
You get the picture.
He's got the floor, okay? Let's
Yes.
keep it down.
So it is and it's a narrow road. When we pass, we make sure we're kind of cutting on the grass to give everybody room when we pass. My property is actually zoned agricultural. And I've had many people with a lot of good ideas come to me and say, Joe, you could do this on the property and make some money. Now understand, I ain't got no old money, I ain't got no new money. I don't want people on my property. It means more to me. My peace and quiet and serenity meant enough for me and my wife to leave a good life in Raleigh and find Homestead Trail. There is such a well-knit community down there. I was talking to one of the neighbors the other day and I told him, I said, I don't want to take away somebody's dream. If this is their dream, I don't want to take away anybody's dream. And he fired right back. He says, are they going to take away your dream? And my dream was to live in the country, sit out on my back deck in the evenings and hear the crickets and an owl and the frogs in the pond. And right now that's what we have. And I would hope that you would understand our situation on Homestead Trail. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walls. Amber Costner. Amber Costner. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Amber Cosner. I live on 860 Homestead Trail, and like a lot of them have already said, it's a neighborhood. It's not like some big acreage in the county where you can have an event center. We have a lot of those. This is neighborhoods, house, 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 a bajillion kids all over the street. Like 1980 when your kids could ride the bike and it was safe, like how we grew up. But then you want to bring an event center in here, and I know she said it's tea parties, but eventually something bigger. You're bringing in traffic for our sheep to get run over. I mean, it's not an atmosphere for an event. It's for families. It's a home. It's quiet. It's a dead-end street. We don't need all that riffraff. There's plenty of room out in the county for something big like that, but not in a neighborhood. This is for our kids and for our family to unwind, to be less stressed from our jobs, for us to live our lives, not be interrupted by parties and people wandering down the streets. We just want to live in peace. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Rick Fain.
Hi, my name is Rick Fain. I come here today in support of the rezoning of the Tooley Place to an agricultural zoning status. Foremost, this property conforms to both R1 zoning and also A1 zoning, and there are no specific characteristics about the property that would deter it to approving. They have the acreage, they have the barn. I believe they plan on having chickens, goats, gardens, which is a form of agriculture. I've known the Tooley family for 5 years now, and they're one of the most giving, serving, community-oriented families I have known. In addition, their 4 boys, the Tooley boys, are some of the most respectful, polite, well-mannered boys you'll probably ever meet in your life, with hearts for service, yes ma'ams and no sirs. Truly most impressive. The Tooleys are a homeschooling family, and they are focused on their children's education. What's more of a significant way to educate them in business than to absorb them into the venue? They plan on having these young men involved in every facet, including budgeting, stocking, calendar management, presentation, entertainment, a positive face of the company interacting with the public, developing them into grown men Pennsylvania County will be proud of. Let's talk America. You mentioned dreams. This is an American dream, to create a name for yourself, to build a business based on your ideals, your vision, your family, and shape that into a legacy that your children can perpetuate throughout the generations. Who are we to try to put a halt to that? This is in pursuit of happiness that they're entitled to, especially when I make my next point. Did you know that driving down Homestead Trail, there are 11 properties that are zoned A1, like Mr. Walls? Some of these parcels are as little as 0.59 acres with just a little house on it. If you ask me, that seems more residential. Why aren't we up in arms about that? The Tooleys have 3.85 acres, and that is 6.5 times the size. Stacy Fitzgerald, who spoke, is zoned A1, and her parcel is directly next door to the Tooleys. So what is the problem with zoning this A1? We're not asking for commercial. We're not asking for industrial. We're not asking for multifamily. It's just A1, which 11 of the properties already have. What's more is that the Tooley family...
Excuse me, ma'am.
What's more is the Tooley family have offered to write up and attach a deed, covenant restrictions, which do restrict the hours of operation, and like they said, alcohol use. Any one of these 11 other owners could have an event venue if they wanted to, at any time, at the snap of a finger. Nothing's going to stop them because they're already zoned A1. And they could do so automatically. When we rely on God's, why on God's green earth is there any opposition whatsoever with this fine family? If you've ever had the pleasure of meeting this family, you'll instantly notice something different about them than most folks. A love for God, a desire to be more like Jesus, and a natural enjoyment of being part of the community. I say we stand with the Tooley family for this American dream and part of this developing history to watch them and wish them well so that we can reflect on this time in the future with a glad heart.
5 seconds. All right. You had a chance to speak, okay? Let's let everybody speak in peace, the same way that we respected your time, okay? Thank you. Please, no more outbursts, okay? Thank you. Jane Witt.
Hey, my name is Jane Witt. I've been living on Homestead Trail for over 31 years.
Can you pull that microphone down just a little bit, Jane?
Okay.
Thank you.
I've been living on Homestead Trail for 31 years. I raised my children there. My children had the freedom to get out and ride the bikes, walk the roads. It's always been a peaceful, quiet neighborhood. And the road is not meant for no heavy traffic. And I think the other children that's coming along now should have the right to do like my children had. That's it. And please vote no. Thank y'all.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Witt. Jeff Atkins.
Evening.
Good evening. How are you, Jeff?
One thing I'd like to say is I do enjoy change, and I like growth, and I like learning. So I like to see some of the things that I've heard tonight that already happened. So that's cool stuff. But with this whole thing, I'm mainly here for support of the neighbors who are really close to the property. When I think about it, where Daniel lives, I mean, right there in his front yard, even kind of like his wife said, at 7, 8 p.m., she's ready to be quiet and settle down. And that would be pretty annoying if I was there trying to relax and enjoy an evening if I had to hear music coming from there. With that being said, I also have a 5-year-old, so I am concerned about that because she's constantly playing on her bike or walking down the roads or whatever. We tend to keep a pretty good eye on her or keep her close to the yard, but when she gets with her other friends on the bikes, they're going to wander off. You know how that goes. I did it when I was a kid and still wander off sometimes, so that's just what it is. But the 15-year-old I have, she's in her phone on the room all the time, so that's not a worry for me. But the little ones we're definitely worried about, especially with as many as we have on our road, and I think that's kind of been expressed here tonight. So, but with that being said, I've never met you guys, so I hate to meet you under these circumstances, but I live at the end on the right, so if this goes through, I'll still be your best friend. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Let's see. Deborah? Deborah, when you make it down here, please tell me your last name. I couldn't make it out. I'm sorry.
My name is Deborah Dockery. My husband, Donald, who's here, my son, and I'm going to be emotional, and my son reside at 692 Homestead Trails, right across the street from this barn. We purchased our land in 1986. We actually purchased the last track on the end of the maintained road because we wanted a quiet residential home. Over the years, our neighborhood has grown, but it has maintained its quiet Homey Appeal. We only have approximately 40 families on this road. Our family and many of the neighbors are totally against this rezoning of these 4 acres of the road. I have heard the reason behind the rezoning is to have tea parties. Every family in our neighborhood has had birthday parties, graduation parties, retirement parties, Tupperware parties. We've all had more than 20, 30, 40 people. We didn't ask for rezoning for those parties because it wasn't needed. We feel that the rezoning that they're asking for in the county will only be needed for commercial events. If you rezone for larger parties, the added traffic will be dangerous to small children and animals in the neighborhood. I feel strangers coming into the neighborhood will not be aware of the speed limits, where the children are, and where the animals are. When you get down to your tea party that's across the street from me, if you don't have parking, where are you going to park? You're going to park in my yard? You're going to block my driveway? I feel that the resident asking for the rezoning, they just purchased this land in December, moved in December. 6 months later, they're asking to change the dynamics of our existing small neighborhood by rezoning. What is changed to rezoning going to open up the door for in the future? Maybe they should have did a little more research before purchasing in our little quiet,
10 seconds.
family-oriented community of Homestead Trails. Thank you for hearing my concerns, and please vote no.
Thank you.
And I also have a letter I want to leave for another resident that, so who do I give it to?
You can give it to Mrs. Ragsdale. Is there anyone else that did not sign up that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Alice Strader. I've lived there for 36 years, and the traffic I've noticed within the past year or two has increased terrible. I went out today, and I don't live but a half a mile down the road. I met 3 vehicles coming down before I got to the top of the road. I've lived there and noticed that we have people going up and down the road that I'm not even aware of. And so my daughter's land is adjacent to Mr. Tolley's. Now she has 11 acres. We don't have it zoned as A1. It's R1. When we brought our property out there, all those lots that were sold was R1. If we allow them to come in to the middle of this neighborhood and go A1, haven't met the Tolleys yet, but I've heard they're good people, and I praise them for being godly people, but I'm not concerned there. What if they sell this property? What if they go down 5 years from now, and it's zoned A1, meaning that other businesses could come in? What kind of business? So if you change it from R1, I think you're asking for problems down the road with the neighborhood, that they can come in and do other things besides just have a venue for parties and things. So we're looking in the future, not just at the present. My past is almost gone, but I'm looking for the future of the new neighbors. I don't think there, I counted one day, I don't think there's over 5 new neighbors down there since I've moved down there. All the rest of them are new neighbors that have moved in, and they're much younger than I am, or they're going to be established there for a while. So we're looking to say what happens in the future if you change this to A1. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. A reference was made to a petition. I've got a bunch of signatures here. I think we all have this, correct? I did receive an email yesterday from Adrian Sheets urging, excuse me, I'm sorry, that was for another case, I'm sorry. We got this petition and then a letter attached to that. Mrs. Ragsdale has another letter in her possession there. I'm assuming that's against.
Yes, would you like it to review?
If you can pass it to Mr. Oakes there. While we're looking at that, if I can get the applicant, Ms. Tooley, to come back up, and there was quite a bit discussed and mentioned. I'll give you an opportunity to respond.
Right now?
Yes, ma'am.
I can hear our neighbors' concerns. I think they don't understand what we're trying to do. There won't be any wild parties. It won't be loud. Our family doesn't drink alcohol, so that kind of wild party world is not going to happen at our home on our property. I don't know if y'all have been to tea parties before. They are the quietest. It's just a group of people coming together and visiting. We hosted a friend's graduation party a couple weeks ago, and it was just people having a good time together in the afternoon. And so we've already submitted the parking to Ms. Ragsdale, and that got approved. There will be no cars on the street, no cars on anyone else's property. And with the tea parties, my tea parties range from 6 to 24 people. That might give you 5 to 12 more cars going down our road. That we're not talking about 100 people for an event. We plan to keep it peaceful. There are 11 other A1 zones on our street, so we would just like to be considered to be one of those as well, and to be able to host some small events on our property. And if there's a different way to do that we were not told, when I went to their office and said, here's what I hope to do, this is what I was told I needed to do. We are open, we are happy to add proffers to it to protect the neighbors in case we do move at some point, and that way no one can come in and do something crazy. We are happy to add that as well. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Any questions?
I have a question, and welcome to the Dan River District in the Pittsylvania County. I didn't catch where you all moved from.
We were in Danville. We're originally from Texas.
Okay. Well, either way, what time of day does a tea party normally take place? I know a lot of the concerns we're hearing is obviously traffic, parking, people drifting off on other land, and late night noise.
Right. Tea parties are normally about 10 a.m. all the way to 4 p.m. So anytime in between there.
10 a.m. to 4 p.m.? Mm-hmm. Okay, so daylight hours.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Mrs. Tooley.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just make a statement.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for this phenomenal business idea. I'm in Bannister District, and I wish we had something like that coming up to our part of the town, but it's okay. I did intently listen to all of the concerns of the citizens, and of course, nothing just blows over. Everything is listened to and carefully weighed against the facts in the comprehensive plan. Saying that, I did take liberty to kind of look at a Google map and rode up and down the road a little bit, viewed the property. It's gorgeous. From what we had in our packet and from what I could see visually, it looked like ample space to me as far as parking is concerned. That's important to me because I live right on Highway 40 and nothing makes me madder than people turning around in my driveway. I hate that. So I get that sentiment, but it does look like that has been taken well into consideration. Also with the hours, I don't see where that would be an issue. I do know change is a big thing for our small community, and it's quiet, it's rural, but I do think this would be an attribute and a draw to that community. Again, I don't live in that area, so I can't speak for the people in that area, but from my bird's eye view, it looks like it would be an asset, and I do hope that everyone can rally around the Tulies if it's approved and make it something nice. And I do trust, this is what I really want to get across, I trust what I've heard here tonight about this being a God-fearing community, and that's the main thing. And we're his hands and his feet. We don't know what this may turn into. We need more good things for the community and for the children this day and time. So, not to wax eloquent, but I trust that you all are making a good decision and you've well thought about it and prayed about it. So, thanks.
Thank you, Colette. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have
Yes.
one. Exactly who do you think you're going to be drawing for tea from 10 to 4? I mean, are you anticipating a large crowd? You know, in school hours, children in school, is this on weekends only? Is there a charge? Is there music? Or you just go sit on the porch and drink your tea?
That's a wonderful question. Right now, people would book a tea party, and they would say, I have 12 people coming. We would put them on the porch or the deck. We would serve them. If we have any music, it would be classical and very soft. I would like to have maybe once a month, open it up for people to come to tea at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and would sit with their friends or family. But it would not be like a restaurant tea house kind of thing. It would be by event.
So are you selling, I mean, are you just going to provide tea, or is it going to entail food? Did you got to have a license from the health department to operate?
Yes, ma'am, and we are
It will go that far.
working on all that. It would be the normal afternoon tea fare.
Okay.
The scones, the sweet treats, hot tea, that kind of stuff.
And what is the maximum of seating capacity on the porch?
I would say 20 to 25.
And again, is it weekday availability or weekends only?
If someone wanted to book a party on a Wednesday afternoon, that'd be fine, but most things are on Saturday morning and afternoon.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Can I chime back in?
Yes.
So is it tickets that are sold, or is that, when you say somebody books it, so you're not necessarily the host, you're just the venue at that point? Is that the way, I mean, I'm curious to see, because really I'm trying to figure out even why we have to you see what I'm saying? I mean, this is bringing in revenue somewhere. Emily, chime in.
So because it is not her own private event
Okay.
with her own friends
Like a
and
cookout.
family,
Right.
she is deriving an income from this event. It becomes an event space at that time.
Right.
And there would be, additional regulations required for parking. So that is not allowed in R1. It is only allowed in A1 with a special use permit. So if this rezoning is approved, she would then apply for a special use permit in which conditions could be placed, limiting hours of operation, times that the event could be held, number of events that could be held during certain periods, things like that. So that is what necessitated the rezoning, was just the fact that she was making revenue off of the parties. They weren't just invitation only for friends and family.
I see. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Is it? Yes, Mr. Webb.
Question. We've concentrated on the tea parties. Other events that were mentioned, family reunions or other items, can the property sustain X number of people without additional, I think someone mentioned a barn that needed to be upgraded in order to accommodate other events.
Right. The barn is not going to happen right now. It would be more, we have it used to be like a smaller outbuilding that we've taken the walls off, and so it's just an open air pavilion. So when we had the graduation party a couple weeks ago, we had food there, people brought their chairs and used the property. There's plenty of room for that and for parking.
Any other questions? Just so everyone I think you all understand this, but this is a rezoning request that would, to operate a venue, a special use permit would have to be issued, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Followed by whatever proffers you were to offer, or whatever restrictions were placed on that. This is a straight up R1 to A1 request. And we've discovered that there's 11 or 12 A1 neighbors in your neighborhood, including your adjacent neighbor.
The property behind us is A1.
Okay. When you purchased the property, you were aware of the existing zoning, I'm assuming?
I had no idea all of the rules when we bought the property. We bought it because we fell in love with it. And as I do the tea parties, we had hoped that this could be something in the future.
Right.
But it wasn't until I came to Ms. Ragsdale's office in March that I learned all of the...
This is your primary residence? Okay. So you bought it to live there regardless of the... Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Ms. Stewart.
Okay, thank you.
At 8:43, public hearing is closed. Mr. Brown.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I think, I talked to Emily. I met with her today on this case because I knew it was a unique case. We obviously had a ton of feedback from Homestead Trail. I'm familiar with the property. I knew the previous owners of that place. I've been there a bunch. I don't think it's a place that a venue of 300 to 400 people need to have. And it's just, I don't think it. I don't think the road, and I agree with the neighborhood when it comes to this, sustainability-wise, there's kids running everywhere. This road is narrow. There's no lines on it. It's not that I'm trying to shoot your dream down, because I'm not saying that's what we're doing. But I think there's, and I don't want to act like I'm riding the fence on this thing, but I do think there's a way to do this. You guys moved into one of the best neighborhoods in the Dan River District. This is rock solid, folks. I went to school with every one of them that spoke that was in my age group, and I know them all. You're living around good people. I know right now you feel like you may be getting attacked a little bit, but I'm going to make a motion. I'm not ready.
You're fine. It's your time.
But you guys can do this, Homestead Trail. You can mitigate this somehow where this woman can have a tea party. We can get through this. A tea party is not the end of the road's sanity. And you guys are rock solid Christian folks. These people are Christian folks. From what I understand, you're in the ministry line of work. I mean, her husband is. We can, we're better than this in the Dan River District. We can, I think we can have tea. Now, how do we do this? Emily, help me. I know you've talked about doing proffers. And now, Homestead Trail, if we rezone this, if we put in a proffer that says she can only have tea parties of up to 40 people, that's all that she can do. Now, let's say the ministry calls this family to move on to Ohio, and they sell this property. That proffer carries with the land, not with the owner. I want to make sure everybody's educated and clear on that, to where that leaves you all as the neighborhood secure, that nothing else can just be bought now on this piece of property and then moved right in here and shoved down your throat, and you can't do anything about it, okay? That's not what, I don't want to leave that door open to where it leaves you all as a neighborhood vulnerable. I talked to the Gustlers about this. Well, I talked to Daniel. I was out there Friday. I looked at what his concern is in his driveway. There's another property that's even closer to him beside of the barn that is a baseball throw, you know. I see what they're saying. It doesn't sound like the barn grant came through, so we're probably not looking at the barn. But maybe down the road, who knows? We can readdress that then. But, you know, that's hearsay now. I seen the little gazebo pavilion thing. That's nice. I don't see why we can't have a group of 20, 25 folks, just like you would have on a Saturday night cookout. She's talking about daytime hours, having tea. I think we can get through this. So my motion would be that we get together this month. I say we table this. We don't make a motion. We table it until next month, and we get proffers in writing. Isn't that what me and you kind of talked about, Emily?
Yeah, they would need to be in writing.
And then we vote on that. That way, I'm just, you know, I hate to tell you guys, you're a great looking couple. You come in, we know you got a religious background, and just shoot you dead in the foot. I don't think it's fair to you guys. And I think you live around a heck of a nice group of neighbors. And really, you guys are going to get along. You're the type of neighbor that any neighborhood would want to move into the area, you know. But we can get through this Homestead Trail. And then you guys reach out to me over the course of next month and talk about what proffers you want to include. Then, like I said, that doesn't leave the neighborhood wide open of not getting any rest, loud music, alcohol being snuck in the backyard. Yeah, we can nip all of those kind of things. We can do better than that.
Motion to table. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mrs. Meese. Please cast your vote. Motion to table next month. Mr. Brown, I'm sorry, just to clarify your motion.
Table to next month.
Okay.
Mr. Hart, your vote.
Yes, I'll support that motion. Motion to table carries, 7 yes, 0 against. That concludes our cases for the month and our public hearing. Is there any old business?
There is no old business, but we do have new business. So there's a conservation easement in accordance with the comprehensive plan request in front of you. And I apologize, there's a typo in the staff summary. It says the Stanton River District. It's actually the Callens-Gretna District, but it is on 310 acres. It is zoned A1 Agricultural District. The comprehensive plan requires that conservation easements either be designated zoned agricultural or conservation in order to be in accordance with the comprehensive plan. So it is designated as agricultural and rural residential and zoned A1. So it is in accordance with the comprehensive plan per staff's review, but that is in your staff summary, including all of the documents for that conservation easement in front of you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ragsdale. Staff recommends approval. The floor is open for a motion on this conservation easement.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve this easement.
Motion by Mrs. Meese. Is there a second?
I'll second.
So don't fight each other now.
I'll second that motion.
Second by Colette Henderson. Are we able to vote, or should we do a voice vote?
Why just did?
I voted too.
I vote in the affirmative. Yes. Motion carries. 7 yes, 0 no. Is that everything? At 8:49, we stand adjourned.